Jana, and welcome to Stoop Stories. This is a series where we showcase local businesses, artists, and creatives.
We hope these videos inspire, encourage, motivate, and offer valuable insights from people who have been there and done that.
Tune in to see who we're going to showcase this week.
Today we are speaking with the amazing Tess Mangum of Sonic Pie Productions. Founded in 2013, Sonic Pie Productions is an amazing company that is your turnkey source for festival curation, consulting, stage management, and so much more. Keep watching to learn how Tess built this company from the ground up.
Hi Tess, and welcome to Stoop Stories. We're super excited to hear from you today and your experience in business. To start with, can you tell us what do you do and how do you do it?
I am Tess Mangum, and in the business world, I am the founder and CEO of Sonic Pie Productions, LLC. We are a concert and events production company, so it can go one of a couple of different ways. If you already have your talent booked for an event and you need a crew and sound equipment and microphones and subwoofers and engineers, we can provide that for you. Or if you want us to do it from start to finish, to contract talent, negotiate those contracts, the who, what, when, where, how, why, and then also production, we can do that as well.
How did you decide to get started?
My father's a musician, my grandmother was a musician. We just, that family that listens to everything from Billie Holiday at dinner to Bob Wills to Willie Nelson to the Allman Brothers, at least on my dad's side. And I always knew that I wanted to work in the music business. So I did a PR degree from UNC Chapel Hill. There was no such thing as a music business degree. Might not still be such a thing. But I knew with a PR degree I would have the foundation to work for a record label. But I didn't necessarily want to live in New York or LA. I wanted to live in the South. So PR degree.
How did you start your business?
So the business incorporation was the result of getting laid off from a 10-year job, which I imagine a lot of entrepreneurs started their own businesses after a similar situation. So I got laid off. I'd been working for a nonprofit, booking concerts for 10 years and got laid off. So 2 months later, I was incorporated as Sonic Pie Productions.
Did things unfold the way you thought they would once you got started? Was your expectations meet reality?
Things went well. I think that with the undergraduate degree and even going back to grad school for a master's in ethnomusicology, I was diversified enough to combine that. So like the knowledge that you need for good curating and good talent buying with learning ins and outs of production and backline and reading a stage plot, and also being able to know how to hire good people, which is super important. It did roll out the way I thought. Of course, this thing called COVID is something that none of us predicted, or at least I didn't. So, the past couple of years have definitely been different.
What opportunities were you able to seize, and how did those opportunities happen?
I saw the need that there were multiple organizations and even cities and townships that might not necessarily need what we do full time, but they needed it on a professional level. And so that means, if you're a contractor, they don't have to pay for office space, they don't have to pay for someone's parking, someone's health insurance, none of that. And so therefore we could come in and do a professional level job, but without really taxing their budget as much as like a full-time employee would.
Did you have that model figured out at the beginning, or was that something that you landed on after a bit of time?
I'd say within the first year is when it was very apparent that that's what, like this was a niche, especially like within the nonprofit community, and then also, like I said, cities and towns and festivals and things like that.
What challenges did you have that were unexpected?
Well, like I mentioned before, COVID definitely changed the live music situation. Luckily, since maybe about 90% of what we do were outdoor events anyway, the outdoors became eventually seen as the safe place to be. So it was actually a blessing in disguise as opposed to working a lot of closed indoor venues without windows and things like that. We had Mother Nature to contend with, we always do, but it was a safer place to gather and a safer place for people to work. So that turned out well.
What was the catalyst that really put you on the right path?
I got to give a shout out to my parents, having the kind of parents that never said, "You want to do what?" They got it. Of course, higher education and good grades were always, always, always required. But especially my dad, he's always been a source of support and advice. I could ask him anything. And my little brother, for instance, runs his own recording studio down in Athens, Georgia. So I can only imagine, I don't have to imagine, we know that Dad is really proud of us for, he was the on-stage guy, and then to have your kids continue in the family business, so to speak, but in our own way, which is more of a behind the scenes, behind the mixer, behind the contract way. I know Dad's proud.
How do you measure success?
This one I can say, keeping my sons fed, like food in the fridge. And I know that sounds really basic, but when you have a 10-and-a-half-year-old and a 13-and-a-half-year-old, the gallon of milk is gone in a day. So on a really base level, as a mother, paying the heating bill and keeping my kids fed, on a more kind of woo-woo, lovey-dovey level, I feel like music is a place where different kinds of people can come together and gather around the same experience and the same topic, no matter your age, no matter even where you came from. So I feel really, really deeply about the kind of brotherhood, sisterhood aspect of producing concerts and music, a lot of times that are free and open to the public. That means you don't have to be rich to have a ticket, so that you can build commerce and community. So if I'm building community and commerce through live music, to me, that's success.
Thinking a little bit about the lessons that you've learned since you've been incorporated, what do you wish you would have known before you started?
Well, it's been 9 years, almost to the day. We just celebrated our 9th birthday, which seems like a really big deal. It seems fantastic. What do I wish I'd known? Okay, so I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur, not growing up. I thought business people and entrepreneurs were those other people. So I guess I was more, a humanities type chick. And, I loved architecture and history and design and obviously music. But I thought that entrepreneurs were not me, which is weird because every musician is an entrepreneur. You're running your own business. So here I was raised by a musician, but yet I didn't see myself as, I never took a single business course. That might have been a good thing to do. So I wished that I would have changed my own perception of what a business person is and what an entrepreneur is, because being an entrepreneur is everything from a mother. If you are a mother, you are an entrepreneur. If you run a small business, obviously you're an entrepreneur. If you're a musician or an artist of any type, you are an entrepreneur. it's not just like the tech types or the computer folks. So I guess, I don't know where I got that from, but I never considered myself a business person. I knew I was a good leader and a good delegator, and I knew I cared about people, but for some reason I didn't associate that with business.
What would you do differently if you had to start over again?
Wow. From sending in those incorporation papers, thinking back to coming up with a company name, and luckily and desperately getting a friend to design a logo for me pro bono. What would I change? It's impossible because there are only so many hours in a day. So I would love to be a record producer, but I think instead, since I can't start over, if you go down a different path, then you lose the other path that you have. I am happy that events, concerts it's kind of like being a record producer, but you're a producer of a show, sometimes one that never happens in that exact same way, on that exact same political climate, with the exact same band or lineup ever again.
What are the biggest lessons you've learned from owning a business?
I think it's continually important to be a good human. I think that we need to help each other and ask for advice and give advice. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Of course, a lot of what you can learn, you can read in a book or you can learn on the internet, but I think it's important to find someone in the world whom you would like to walk like in the world, walk through the world more like a certain person, and then have that person in mind in terms of your worldview and the way you run your life, and then therefore, as an extension, your business. So for me, I know I really look up to my grandmother. She also sang and played guitar and was a guitar teacher, and she worked in the mill all her life as well. She was a hardworking, kind, strong woman. So I always looked up to her.
So speaking about advice, what advice would you give someone just starting out in business, and what was the best advice that you got?
I think I will quote two friends who did give me advice in the very, 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 very beginning, and I've gone back to those sentences, or even reminded myself or centered myself with these so many times. One person said, "Give it a year and you'll never look back." And that's when you're worried, you don't have health insurance, or you're trying to decide, where do I need to spend my money? Do we do equipment? Do we invest in crew? Do we go with health insurance? Do I get a loan? All those things. So she said, give it a year and you'll never look back. That was really good advice. The other person said, don't ever get behind on your Secretary of State annual fee. So in the state of North Carolina, it only takes $125 to incorporate as an LLC. $125. However, every year you need to log online and file a $200 annual fee, along with answering questions like, are you still the boss? Yes. Is this still your address? Yes. Is your business still a single owner, or are you a partnership now? So you answer those questions, go online and pay your $200. Don't ever get behind, because you'll get in trouble.
Is that the advice you give people?
Yeah, those two pieces of advice that someone gave me, I will also use as advice to give others.
Do you have other advice that you normally give people?
Don't be a jerk, especially in the Triangle in Durham. We know each other. It's not a huge market or a huge city. And if you're a jerk, everybody's going to know it.
Do you have anything generally just to tell people who are just starting the path of being an entrepreneur, or thinking about opening a business, or being a business?
Mm-hmm. I know that storefront and physical space is very, very expensive. So I feel like it's people's individual choice whether or not to go by way of a lease or buying a building. It seems like it's impossible to buy a building. So definitely look into the tax advantages of having an office in your home. Of course, if you need warehouse space or something like that, it's not going to work. But, these days, you don't have to have a brick and mortar location. Also, for me personally, I never felt like I had the privilege of going into debt in order to start a business and in order to do this thing. I have kids to raise, and that didn't feel right to me. Some people do it to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. But for me personally, I only purchased what I knew I needed right then and there for this coming season. I did not over-purchase.
Well, thank you for coming today. We love to hear about your journey.
Thank you, Jana, and thank you to Durham County. Brand new, gorgeous library, top floor.